For the longest time, people thought philosophy was all about finding these timeless, unchanging truths. But what if the world isn't static? What if philosophy isn't really about knowing things, but about doing things? Today, let's dive into the revolutionary ideas of John Dewey. So this is the big switch up we're talking about. On one side, you've got the classic view philosophy as this quiet, armchair search for absolute certainty. But on the other side, you have this new American way of thinking called pragmatism. And they just weren't interested in abstract truths. They were asking a much simpler but way more powerful question. What difference does an idea actually make in our real lives? All right, let's unpack what this philosophy for doing is all about. And it really starts by knocking down a very famous image from the history of philosophy. Yeah, think about Descartes, right? He famously shut himself away in a warm room, trying to build all of knowledge from scratch, totally isolated from the world. Well, for the pragmatists, that image was exactly what was wrong with philosophy. They argued you just can't separate thought from the messy, real experience of actually living. Okay, so this gets us right to the heart of pragmatism. It's not really a set of beliefs. It's more like a method, a tool. The way you figure out if an idea even means anything, or how you settle a big debate, is to ask, okay, what happens if we actually try this? What are its real-world effects? I mean, if an idea has zero practical consequences, a pragmatist would say it's not even worth arguing about. And this is exactly where John Dewey steps onto the stage. He took this whole pragmatic method and fused it with another idea that was changing the world: evolution. Dewey looked at human beings and saw us for what we are: biological organisms just trying to survive and adapt in a constantly changing environment. And this entire viewpoint, which we can call evolutionary naturalism, well, it became the bedrock for his whole philosophy of how we experience the world. Now, this is Dewey's brilliant model for how life actually feels. Most of the time, we're in step one, fluid experience. We're just cruising along on autopilot, kind of like driving a car. But then, bam, step two, a problem. A farm wagon pulls out. And that is when thinking kicks in. Not for fun, not for abstract contemplation, but to solve an immediate problem. Once we act and get to step four, the resolution, we're back to that smooth, fluid experience again. And this just nails Dewey's point perfectly. For him, thinking isn't some passive, reflective state. Nope, it's an active, biological tool that only really switches on when our normal, habitual way of doing things gets challenged. Intelligence, above all else, is a problem-solving machine. So if thinking is a tool for solving problems, then what does that make an idea? This is where Dewey really makes a radical break with the past. The old view, right, was that an idea is like a picture in your mind, a little snapshot of reality. Dewey said no way. An idea is a plan. It's a hypothesis, a strategy for getting past an obstacle. It's not about what's true in some abstract sense. It's about what might actually work. Let's make this really sink in with an example Dewey himself used. Say you're on your way to a job interview, and the bridge is out. The ideas that pop into your head, go the long way, find another bridge, jump it, those aren't pictures of reality. They're competing plans of action. You probably do a quick mental simulation, right? Weigh the pros and cons. The true idea in this case isn't the one that perfectly describes the creek. It's the one that solves your problem and gets you to that interview on time. Dewey took this thinking as doing idea and applied it to science itself with a concept called operationalism. The key thing to get here is that the meaning of a scientific term isn't some hidden, deep essence. The meaning is the operation you do to measure it. So, hardness? It's not some abstract quality. It just means the result I get when I perform the operation of scratching one mineral with another. That's it. The meaning is in the action. And this leads right into something he called instrumentalism. If ideas are plans, then scientific theories are basically our most advanced and sophisticated instruments. Dewey argued they're not meant to give us a perfect, crystal-clear picture of reality. Instead, they are incredibly powerful tools that help us predict things, solve problems, and build stuff. Their value is in how useful they are, not in whether they are absolutely true. So, if ideas are just tools, that doesn't just tweak how we see science, it changes everything. Dewey basically took this instrumentalist view like a wrecking ball to some of our most deeply held beliefs. Just look at this. He applied his tool concept everywhere. In ethics, he said values aren't some fixed, universal moral laws from on high. They're tools we develop for survival. In education, the goal isn't to just pour facts into students' heads, it's to give them the tools for problem solving. In religion, He saw it not as belief in supernatural truths, but as a commitment to community ideals, with God being a powerful symbol for those ideals. And you know what? This wasn't just some abstract ivory tower stuff. Dewey's ideas had a massive real-world impact. His thinking on ethics helped pave the way for what we now call situation ethics, where right and wrong depend on the specific context of a problem. And his vision for education, it directly inspired the modern focus on life skills, critical thinking, and student-led problem-based learning. You can see the echoes of his work everywhere. So what's the big takeaway from this whirlwind tour of John Dewey's mind? What's his lasting legacy? Well, Dewey pretty much changed the job description of a philosopher. He shifted the goal from finding absolute certainty to developing good methods for dealing with a world that's always changing. He hammered home that thinking is for doing, that ideas are tools, and that knowledge itself is just part of how a living creature, us, keeps adjusting to its environment. He said goodbye to all final answers and fixed goals. And that leaves us with a really profound and maybe even a little bit of an unsettling question. In a world with no fixed goals, no absolute values, where our own intelligence is just an instrument to get us from one problem to the next, what's the whole point of the journey? What are we all adjusting for? And that's the big question Dewey's powerful philosophy leaves us to answer for ourselves.